Okay. Good evening. I'm Dr. Vinodini, Professor Anwar Ulum College of Business Management. Today I'm going to talk about resilience behavior. Uh, Resilience behavior is the remarkable ability of humans to adopt when faced with adversity. Like author Richardson, he said in the year 2002, he made a study and he has uh, conveyed a message that individuals, those progressively develop the ability to successfully adopt or bounce back from adversity. So it is the ability, one that can be learned, built, and developed by anyone. And resilient people survive and bounce back after a setback. Like each negative experience has taught people and applying it in their future accomplishments. Basically, this resilience behavior comes to it is those who faces with stress and how to overcome such stress. Now, why this stress occurs? Stress, it is understood in physiological terms that focused bodily responses to a demand. For example, changes in our nervous functioning. And in fact, some of the authors, they specified that bodily responses demands had evolved to allow humans and animals alike to deal with an immediate threat, either to fight or flight. To fight or flight. But mostly, this is the basic reason for the people is they face some kind of stress, and that stress can be from any form, from many forms. So, how do we cope up with the stress and why this stress takes place? And in order to overcome such stress, why we have to be resilient? Because life is part of traumatic situations, challenges. So, the basic thing is that how to cope up with the stress. Today, most of us, for example, we are into this pandemic situation where we don't have a vaccine, but we have to face and what do you call bounce back this particular situation. During this unlock period, what are we doing is we are trying to make use of mask, PPE kit, and what you call social distancing and hand wash. These are the basic things what we are taking care. So that means what are we trying to do? We are into a pandemic situation. We are trying to bounce back, being resilient, bouncing back by taking positive measures, thinking positively to overcome the situations. Yes, we have a kind of a traumatic situation. What all we face, like for example, we talk about this during this COVID-19. We look at the situation of the migrant laborers. They were just crossing miles. One example I heard about that 1200 kilometers. Some family were walking from one place to their state, their particular state, because they didn't had anything. So they were walking for 1200 kilometers in order to reach out there. But they had something in their situation, and that is a kind of traumatic situation where they are jobless and they are supposed to move away from the place wherein they can earn their bread and butter. So these are all traumatic situations. So when we are faced with such kind of stress and traumas, we need to understand that this is not a prolonged one. This is a temporary phase. We need to bounce back. So what are we going to do? So there are two types of stress. One is eustress and the other one is distress. In eustress, it is a term for the constructive and healthy outcomes stress can facilitate. Like, for example, winning in a race or completing a demanding task. So these are all certain things which create us take a take a stress, but the outcome has to be for some positive, for some reward. But distress is today what we are most of us are facing. Like teachers who are jobless today, they're facing traumatic situations, and there are many other people other than, like what you call online or pharmaceutical, some companies, they are surviving, but rest of all, including the entire world, is facing with this traumatic situation. So but how do we set back, how do we bounce back the situation? We need to identify, we cannot sustain with this counting on number of cases have increased, so many people died, so so what is that, what can I do? This kind of traumatic situations we have faced it. No, but we are still in the same situation, but we need to be resilient in order to overcome the situation. So what are the things we need to do? We need to identify to be resilient, we need to identify certain parameters to be resilient, like for example your own abilities, your own standards, your characteristics, trusting your own intuition, tolerating bad feelings and getting stronger from stress, accepting change positively and having secure relationships. How? Even spirituality will make an impact on it. Spirituality, having a spiritual thought coming out with this. So we need to understand the positive outcomes and some coping strategies. Like, for example, for coping from this situation, there are many psychologists, they have also suggested that there are some people who had come out with this kind of situation, and it is one of the trait to be resilient. The trait is, there are two different people has this traits has both positive and negative aspects. People immediately take this particular trait into negative form and positive form. What will be my situation? I may not come up of this. I am jobless. What should I do? These are all negative traits which a person imbibes. And the background behind this particular scenario is sometimes even at your childhood level, you have faced some situation where you became fearful and stressful in the prolonged period. And the same thing, it is coming up even today. Whenever you face such kind of change in the atmosphere, you become anxiety, you become, stressed. The reason is, it is a kind of thing somewhere in your childhood, somewhere in your adulthood, you have come up with such kind of change, and that has made you to have this develop this negative trait. But there is always a scope for you to transform this negative trait into a positive trait, like being optimism. And one, suppose for example, if you wanted to develop a positive, uh, transform this into a positive trait, you, whatever the work you do, you must see that some recognition you must get, and people around you should give you some recognition wherein you feel, yes, I got some recognition, I got some reward for this particular work I have done. This is one kind of trait you need to develop. Then from looking at other people, they are not so good, but at least I am getting my 3 times food, I'm better. So from neutral to wellness, we need to understand that I am better off. When I feel the positivity, then obviously you start becoming resilient and having a positive hope. Hope is most important thing. Yes, I'll always live in a positive hope. Then your own self confidence and self efficacy. Self efficacy is one kind of thing where you either try to avoid the anxiety situation or a change situation, or you try to face it. So, generally, what happens is, when you talk about self efficacy, it is a confidence level you build and you try to bounce back. This is most important element. Then comes your high self esteem. When you have an high self esteem, you try to look at challenge as mountain of treasure rather than, you know, mountain of problems. You will see that in a positive way. Then comes your problem solving situation. This is one of the trait where you you need to come out of the box and see as an outsider in order to solve the problem. This is one of the important parameter. And another thing is that most times it so happens that we try to get stressed for not being adjustable to situations, not being adjustable or adaptable. guy, the people who are having an individual who is having a positive trait will always try to adopt, fight or flight. So he tries to fight, take the challenge and adapt to the situation. That is also not in a one day, in a single day, you get that particular trait. It is a gradual change which comes in an individual. And this is an ability, as I said in the initial, that this is an ability, it can be overcome and it can be enhanced. The ability can be improved upon. You can add on to your strengths, minimize your weakness of being stressed, anxiety, or depression. See, depression is such a thing, it is again a negative trait where the prolonged stress will really put you to such a level. And most of the people today, especially the youngsters, the millenniums, they are in a situation, they are just out from their graduation before pandemic, and they were in a scenario to look out for their careers. And because of this, lockdown and pandemic situation, they really are in a state of confusion what to do. I'm going to start a career and this kind of situation arise. So what, their mental health starts getting affected. So what we have to do in order to overcome the situation, we are far better. The people who are at the adult age are far better. See, today when we talk about online sessions for a small kid, those who are just in nursery or first class and second class, they are trying to learn by being on Zoom sessions or any other online platform. They are trying to learn, adapt to the situation, which most of us are not able to. We are not computer savvy, we are not net savvy, we are not, we are not used to, as a teacher, we are not used to going, most of us, we are still believing chalk and board, you know. But I've also heard during this pandemic situation when I was attending certain seminars, webinars, I heard that sage in a cage, being in the classroom situation where we are all packed, the students are all packed in a place and they are given some kind of session, and if they are not interested, some are seen, I have seen an art stating that some students are sleeping, some students are in their own mobiles and stuff. So their getting an attention there also is like a forcible. They may or may not. But here in this platform, we are, as teachers, we are able to adopt it. So we must make sure that we are quick in adopting. The guys with a positive trait are ready to adopt to the situation and they are ready to take the risk. And another thing is that we must believe in our deep and meaningful system. Our system, we must have a faith, belief in our system, and then trying to adhere and adopt to the situations. Another thing is that when any situation of challenging occurs, we have to act proactively, not reacting. We need to respond to the situation. Why this situation has occurred, we need to respond positively. And we must be committed to the situation or any traumatic conditions and being adaptive. And another, what I have feel is when we talk about this resilient behavior, Sharni is a great author who has developed a scale. He said that resilient individuals essentially have a system that is hypersensitive to reward, so that the chronic and acute stresses fails to influence the rate at which the dopamine is released. See, when we talk about stress from the biological perspective, they said that it is a chronic stress and extreme fear that have put forth as a direct result of a dopamine activity, which is a kind of hormone that and neurotransmitter that plays several important roles in our brain. So what we have to do? So problems they have categorized into emotional and behavior. The people with a positive mindset and a positive trait will always try to resolve it. and try to be resourceful and very flexible in attempting a particular situation. And those people are also having a trait called sociable, social adaptability, dependability, and their strong willpower. When we talk about the sociability, see, बात करने से ही बात बनती है. Like when you keep within you, when you keep this, any kind of uh, what you call stress or a feeling within you which has hurted you, but when you discuss across the table with the people, you mostly try to minimize that particular stress. So we must learn to be sociable. See, some people say, I'm not a social creature. I can't share with anybody. So when you restrict such kind of barriers or barricades psychologically, what happens is you are trying to make the problem much bigger, much bigger. So when you share, half of the problem is really solved. In fact, when you share with your friend or some relative or the closed ones with you, definitely they might come out with some kind of solution to this. It is not that we suffer. What happens is, because of pandemic situation, I heard one incident that student, because she was not able to attend Zoom sessions, she feared that I may not get the lessons. I may not, I'll fall backward. I may not be able to cope up with the subjects. So what is that? I don't have internet connection. So what should I do? She was in traumatic situations and she has given up her life. This is not the situation. We need to overcome. We need to discuss. We need to talk. At least some solution will come out of it. And people, even like, those who are jobless, have even committed suicide. So why such situation arises? Because of your negative trait, which you have not discussed, you have not developed the quality. So you need to minimize that. When you minimize it, you make sure that your strengths are added, and that social relationship you need to maintain. And dependability. Some people feel that I never depend on anybody. I do my things on my own. I don't have to depend on. It is a kind of egoistic state. But let me tell you, that egoistic state, sometimes it proves positive, sometimes it proves negative. When situation is perfect, yes, your ego state is a kind of self-esteem which will help you, but not in all the cases. So we need to depend on everybody, because we are, at the end of the day, we are social creatures. We are dependent on each other. We are not living in an isolation. If you are in isolation, you won't be able to express what is happening within you. Even joy, you share it. Sorrow, you share it. You'll try to minimize. Joy doubles, sorrows minimizes. So that is how you have to understand the scenarios. And I have heard that the quality of, especially people, the achievers, will always have a resilient content within them. That is a trait. Resilient content. Resilient content is not just like a self-efficacy, coping strategy. It is a kind of trait where you say why. You never say the word why me. You say try me. This is a kind of quality you develop. And this particular quality is also called as I said, ego resiliency. And there are many other personality traits which like we have already, I mean, some of you have studied that big five model and all, where these kind of traits are positive. They're mostly the positive natures. They can be negative and positive, but these are all personality traits which will make an influence on us to respond or react to the situation. That is how we have to be resilient. And there are the negative oriented people will have high levels of emotional distress, like anxiety, as I said, and depression. And depression is one kind of chronic disease. And you, unless until you come out of this with the sociable qualities or interacting or depending with on others, this quality will not, because this is going to kill you at the end of the day, right? So what these negative trait oriented people are mostly unpleasant, and they are potentially harmful. they experience, because they always feel that they think that there is no future. I can't face the situation. And they are susceptible, they are very much susceptible to stress. They don't believe in anything. So, what we have to do, because what happens is adverse situations often occur in an unpredictable and unavoidable manner. The problem will not come in a shape, yes, I'm coming like this, come on, you try to find out solutions for me. No, it is all unpredictable. You do not know in what form these adversities will come. Today, we are in the same situation. Like, I was just going through some literature. I found that there was, it was in some nation, the fire broke out. But the fire engineer said, nothing is happening, it's all calm, cool, everything, nothing is going to happen. Within 10 minutes of that, he conveyed to the public, it broke out, and 500 people lost their lives in a particular place. That means we do not know how unpredictable the situations are. Today, if you touch every family has a story to tell how they faced with this pandemic situation, and still they have not come out of it. So, but still, we are the ones who are supposed to be resilient. We cannot run away from the situation. Only thing is that face the situation with a confidence, willpower. That is what we have to develop. And it is resilience is a multifaceted concept. It differs from person to person, and across the span of life, we need to face traumatic situations and many things in our life. So we need to develop coping up strategies to deal with this psychological consequence in such a manner that renders us either more or less capable to survive in any situation in futures, so that we this can be understood and taken care, and maybe learned for the next month. We must be prepared for the next pandemic. Yes, let the pandemics come, I'm ready to face, because my trait is resilient. I am having a resilient behavior. I can face anything. Like, the most of the time is we need to either accept what we cannot change, or change what you cannot accept. That kind of quality we must have. We must develop the ability to succeed when faced with stress and uncertainty. Stress and uncertainty. We need to re-evaluate failure as a lesson to be learned. We need to re-evaluate failure as a lesson to be learned. And this resilience emphasizes the successful adoption that occurs and result in development beyond such a way that this time you are much more smarter than earlier. This should be your confidence level. Like, there are many disruptions in life, there are many disruptions, and this disruption is a kind of temporary phase, and this is on our emotional and behavioral instability. It comes as a disruption, comes as a emotional and behavioral instability, which is experienced in the immediate aftermath of an event. So, what we need to do? We need to reintegrate positively and adapt to the experience. We need to adapt to the experience. And here, there are many instances. Like, for example, I'll tell you a small situation. Like, when I was working on this resilient behavior, it was in 2000, I mean, that particular period, 2010, that period, we have seen in Hyderabad, there was a bomb blast at Gokul Chaat and some other Dilsuk Nagar area in Hyderabad. What happened was, when we looked at that situation, we felt that how people were totally, many families got dislocated. Total, there was, like some were the people, some of them, the family, only one bread earner has lost the life. The total family has shattered completely. They had many dreams and aims in their lives, and they could not succeed because of this situation. They lost their lives, and some of them were lost their limbs. And that has developed, was a thought process for us to work on this concept called resilient behavior. We worked on that, how to face it. What is it? This situation, like we have to. And this is one pandemic, like those terrorist attacks. After that, again, have seen this pandemic situation. More or less, it was a traumatic for the people who suffered. Here today, we are all victims of this particular traumatic situation. What we have to do, how we have to develop that resilient quality. It's a trait. And that was a thought process which has really felt for me like, why can't we be prepared? Like, how we are preparing ourselves to be resilient, because since vaccine has not come, so what is that we need to do? We need to be prepared for having a mask, then PPE kit or temperature check and hand wash. So these are all the things we are, that means prevention is better than cure. So let us prevent. So we are taking all precautionary steps and coming out working with, by maintaining social distance. We came out of this. Still, this kind of pandemics will come in span of our life, and we need to develop the quality. As I said, we have to be resilient. It emphasizes, as I said, it's a successful adoption that occurs and frequently results in development beyond the original position, and survive setbacks and challenges, but thrive and flourish in the face of adversity. In the face of adversity, like we have during this pandemic, we thought for 1 week, 10 days, we were idle. What to do in our lockdown? No sessions, nothing. We were not very much familiar with this, taking sessions on Zoom or some other online platforms. So as like when it comes to me, like as an example, I'm telling, I said, okay, since I do yoga, what I said, okay, let me at least give some training to people. I started inviting my neighborhood 5 members only, because we need to maintain social distancing, right? So we used to do yoga and meditation. We slowly started transforming, means gaining this particular, yoga is one kind of activity which make our body, mind, and soul at peace, and it makes us sustain, face emotionally balanced. This kind of activity will help us to concentrate on our breathing, to concentrate on our health. So yoga was one of the important activity which I have developed and try to help out others who were in this lockdown. Let us utilize in a positive way the time which we had. Never in the entire century people got this kind of opportunity to be bonding with with the relations with our people, families being in lockdown. We were really enjoying. So let us think positively, not just counting on number of deaths and number of people got victimized with this particular coronavirus and all. So we need to either avoid or face the risk. So lastly, I would like to say, let us be, to be resilient is to be sharper, smarter, and stronger. Thank you so much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.